Maharaj ki jai. Uchidina Pravishta Om Vishnu Paras Titana Satu Shishima Shri Bhakti Dhartana Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Uchidina Pravishta Om Vishnu Paras Titana Satu Shishima Shri Bhakti Dhartana Keshala Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Uchidina Pravishta Om Vishnu Paras Titana Satu Shishima Shri Bhakti Rakshakshi Shri Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Uchidina Pravishta Paramahansa Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Uchidina Pravishta Paramahansa Shri Gokishwara Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Uchidina Pravishta Satyananda Shri Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Uchidina Pravishta Vaishnava Shri Jnananda Swami Maharaj ki jai. Uchidina Pravishta Vaishnava Swami Shri Jnananda Swami Maharaj ki jai. Shri Gauri Vedanta Charya Shri Bhagavan Vidhi Bhushan Prabhu ki jai. Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Shri Natham Shri Vaishnavananda Prabhu Chaya ki jai. Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhattaranath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhattacharya Swami Vasant Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sri Rup Damodar Ramananda Shri Gopal Shri Prabhu ki jai. Ramacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Jai Shri Kahora Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki jai. Antadeep Mayapur Shri Mantadeep Kotimadeep Nadadeep Kaladeep Atadeep Nadadeep Kaladeep Nadadeep Krishna Nadadeep ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govinda Sarvada Krishna Bhajmana ki jai. Shri Shri Kund Radha Kund Nirvana Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Yogamaya Purnamasi ki jai. Gopishwar Mahadev ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Subhasan Shakti ki jai. Purushottam Chachi ki jai. Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Antaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava ki jai. Samagata Bhakta Guru ki jai. Nitai Gopinandi Hari Hari Bol.
Yeah, there's a lot more nectar. A lot more nectar. Yeah, we haven't even touched. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaura Tishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. I'm then offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Astatarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Rupa Anuga Guru Varga, and I'm offering my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and to all the Vaishnavis. We've been reading chapter 14, Madhya Lila Chaitanya Charitamrita, titled The Performance of the Vrindavan Pastimes. We read also the same chapter summary given by our Gurudev Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj in his Rath Yatra book. So that was completed, but the reading of the verses of Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita have not been completed. I'm doing that. I'm continuing with that until we reach the end of this chapter. So these two chapters, chapter Madhya Lila 13 and Madhya Lila 14, are the description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Rath Yatra observance, pastimes, and so forth. But the conversation which Swarup Damodar Goswami was having with Mahaprabhu as they were walking towards the Gundicha Mandir, following the dramatic performance of Lakshmi Devi's palanquin and all the servants and everything, and then they finally arrived there. This conversation is going on as they're walking. It's a 2-mile walk from the Puri temple to the Gundicha temple. So all of this is going on as they're walking along. And Swarup Damodar Goswami has been requested by Mahaprabhu to discuss and to describe all the moods of the gopis in comparison with Lakshmi Devi's moods. That was what instigated this. But Mahaprabhu wanted to hear all these topics in detail. So in actuality, anyone who wants to understand this pastime but does not read the full description as well as the purports, you're not getting it all. Of course, Srila Gurudev was giving a quite adequate, not full, but kind of like a summary of the different sections of the discussions, right? But there are many, many more verses, and it's just charming. It's so charming to hear. So I'm picking up from where I left off in my own personal reading. All right, so we're starting from text 183 of this 14th chapter. Well, so you have to go back in a little bit more. There's a lot of technical descriptions here, and I know that's why Srila Gurudev, he didn't make an attempt to read all of them, because these are higher topics which a person who has some appreciation of it and some familiarity with it, he will be able to appreciate. Just like in the Nectar of Devotion, you know, that in the early days when the Nectar of Devotion first came out, we began to read it. And we just kept reading, you know, because it's divided into 4 sections. The Nectar of Devotion it's a summary study also of what? Of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is vast, you know. But Srila Prabhupada, he did quite a complete summary study of it. So there are so many technical terms because, why? Why are these technical terms? Because we're discussing the subject matter of rasa tattva. Can you open that window there? Yeah. Of rasa tattva. Rasa tattva is very deep. Srila Rupa Goswami, he's discussing, this is the topic of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sindhu means ocean, and Rasa Amrita means the nectar of rasa. Of rasa what? Bhakti rasa. Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. So in this Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami is discussing all the different rasas, the main 5 Staibhav rasas that the living entities can have with Krishna. You know, I was reading the comments that the devotees who are watching on Facebook, and they were saying that they're hearing a lot of chopping in the background. So they're wondering what that is. Just for your information, we're right next to the kitchen, and there's a very loud sound coming. So I suggest we should close the door while the chopping is going on, at least, so that the devotees are not hearing that in the background. Vegetable chopping. So, the point I'm making is that Srila Rupa Goswami, he has described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu all 5 rasas. What are the 5 rasas? Do you know? Come on. Dasya ras, servitude, the 5 emotions that we can have in our eternal relationship with Krishna. Just like the cowherd boys. What is their relationship with Krishna? Friendly. Yes, friendly. And that's called Sakya ras. And Mother Yashoda's relationship is in parental affection, right? And some of the cowherd boys, they also have the mood of dasya ras, servitude to Krishna. But neutrality is there in the other living entities in Vrindavan. However, it's not pure neutrality. Anyway, that's another topic. But everyone should know, every Hare Krishna devotee should know that I will have one of 5 relationships with Krishna when I realize my eternal spiritual form. One of 5. And the highest of those is the Braja Gopis, conjugal love, Madhurya Rasa. So the Madhurya Rasa topic, Srila Rupa Goswami did not discuss it in great length in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He chose to write an entirely separate book on that topic. And that's called Ujjvala Nilamani. It's very thick. The English version that we have is very, very thick. Very thick. So it's like more than 1,000 pages. And it describes everything. So this conversation dips into that. There's actually a few quotes in here from Ujjvala Nilamani, because just like in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami is giving many definition verses for different terminologies. So similarly, he's doing that in Madhurya Rasa, in the Ujjvala Nilamani, and giving definition verses of the different moods, what is Kila Kinchita, and so forth. So, this is the topic being discussed. So, there's a famous verse. I keep going back and back and realizing, oh, I have to read this to them. They haven't heard this yet.
Are you in chapter 14?
Yes, I am. I'm around 158. Scrolling backwards a little bit. So, all right, I'm just starting. Although some of the gopis are talkative, this is Srup Damodar speaking this, and he's already spoken up to this point. Wait. Some of these heroines are very talkative. Some are mild, some are equipoised. You actually have to look at the Sanskrit, or mainly the Bengali in this case, to know what they're talking about. So each heroine, according to her own character, increases Sri Krishna's loving ecstasy. What is a heroine? So that we know in English. You probably have the same thing in Spanish.
Female hero.
You know a hero? What's a hero? Someone who's very courageous and he comes and he saves someone. Yes, hero. You call it hero. Heroine. So, how do you say a woman hero? Heroina. Yes. So, hero and heroine are in the Sanskrit language, in the English language. So, what is the term for hero and heroine? Oh, it's not here. It's in the previous verse. Okay, verse 142. So it is not possible to give a complete statement about the different types of jealous anger, man, that are manifest by the gopis. This is the first topic, man. And Mahaprabhu wants to hear from Swarup Damodar Goswami, describe to me the different varieties of man of the gopis. And he's saying that it's not possible to give a complete statement about the different types of jealous anger manifested by the gopis, but a few principles they may serve as an indication. He says there are 3 types of women experiencing jealous anger. So, man keho hoi dira, keho to adira, 18 vede keho hoi dira dira. So there's your name, Dira. So, there are three types of women. There's three categories of these heroines. Heroina. Yes. So, one of them is called Dhira. So Dhira generally means sober, more grave. Another is called Adhira, the opposite. It means kind of restless women. And Dhir Adhira means both restless and sober. Okay, so that's the first introduction to this topic in this conversation. So he says that the characteristics and the modes of love are different in different women. So the jealous anger, it also takes on different varieties and qualities. And it is not possible to give a complete statement about the different types of jealous anger manifest by the gopis. But a few principles may serve as an indication. Then he says this: there are three types of women experiencing jealous anger: sober women, restless women, and women both restless and sober. So when a sober heroine sees her hero approaching from a distance, she immediately stands up. This is how they behave. This is a description. And you can imagine Srimati Radhika doing this with Krishna. And then later there are verses that actually describe the actual scene. So when a sober heroine sees her hero approaching from a distance, then she immediately stands up to receive him. And when he comes near, she immediately offers him a place to sit. Now, remember, she is a dhira, naika. Naika means heroina. Yes, so she is more serious. She has anger. She has jealous anger towards Krishna. Okay? But she behaves in a particular way because of her nature. Her nature is more sober, more serious. So she deals with her hero in a certain way, Nayaka. So the sober heroine sees her hero approaching from a distance, she immediately stands up to receive him. And when he comes near, she immediately offers him a place to sit. Then the sober heroine conceals her anger within her heart and externally speaks sweet words. And when her lover embraces her, she returns his embrace. The sober heroine is very simple in her behavior. She keeps her jealous anger within her heart, but with mild words and smiles, she rejects the advances of her lover. So our painting, Shamarani's painting, Seva Kunj painting, what is Srimati Radhika doing?
Rejecting the advances.
Yes, she's going like this. And Krishna is like this. So, the restless heroine, however, sometimes chastises her lover with cruel words, sometimes pulls his ear, and sometimes binds him with a flower garland. Then the heroine, who is a combination of sobriety and restlessness, dhira, that heroine always jokes with equivocal words. She sometimes praises her lover, sometimes blasphemes him, sometimes remains indifferent. Heroines may also be classified as captivated, intermediate, and impudent. So the captivated heroine does not know very much about the cunning intricacies of jealous anger. So this means kind of like Rukmini in that sense. There's later analyses of this. So this captivated heroine, let me tell the terminologies. Mugdha, Madhya, and Pragalbha. We know Pragalbha.
She's not Pragalbha?
She has all of these, but there's a particular gopi that is mentioned as having the nature of pragalva. Yes, Lalita. It happens to be Lalita in the form of Sri Damodar Goswami who's explaining this, right? So Mugdha, see, now because there's 3 types of Naikas, but now there's 3 types also of moods. Captivated means Mugdha, Madhya means intermediate in the middle, and Pragalbha, very impudent. And the captivated heroine, the first one, she's more shy. She does not know very much about the cunning intricacies of jealous anger. The captivated heroine, what does she do? She simply covers her face and goes on crying. And when she hears sweet words from her lover, she's very satisfied. Both the intermediate and the impudent heroines, they can be classified as sober, restless, and both sober and restless. So there's another category. This is how, when you take the different divisions, it adds up to 360 different types of heroines. That's why Yogamaya and Krishna's Ladini Shakti, Swarup Shakti potency has created all of this just for Krishna to taste ras. So, all of their characteristics can be further classified in 3 divisions. So, verse 152, some of these heroines, they're very talkative. Some are mild, and some are equipoised. And each heroine according to her own character. Each heroine, according to her own character, increases Sri Krishna's loving ecstasy. You see? They all have a role to play. And although some of the gopis are talkative, and some are mild, and some are equipoised, all of them are transcendental and completely faultless. They please Krishna by their unique characteristics. Now, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at this point, he felt unlimited happiness upon hearing these descriptions, and he again and again requested Swarup Damodar to continue speaking. Now, Damodar Goswami said, Krishna is the master of all transcendental mellows, and he is the taster of all transcendental mellows. And his body is composed of transcendental bliss. So, here's the Bengali. You'll recognize these words. Damodar Kahe, Swarup Damodar said, Krishna, Rasika Shekhar. You know the meaning of Rasika Shekhar?
The employee of the Ras, right?
He is, well, actually, Rasika Shekhar means he's the topmost expert. He's the master of all transcendental rasa. Rasika Shekhar, Krishna. Then Ras Asvadaka. You know what Asvadan means? We say it every day in the Gurvastakam. Shri Radhika Madhavayor Apara Madhurya Lila Guna Rupa Namnam Pratikshana Asvadana Lolupasya Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinam. Asvadan means to taste. Asvadana. So, Krishna is being described by Swarup Damodar as Rasika Shekhar and as Rasa Asvadaka. What does that mean? He is the taster of all transcendental mellows. He's an Asvadak, a taster. And what else? Rasamai Kalevara, whose body is made of rasa, transcendental ecstasy. So, Krishna is full of ecstatic love, and he is always subordinate to the love of his devotees. So here it says, Premamoy Vapu Krishna. Premamoy. Premamoy means his vapu, his body, is made of prema. Premamoy, full of prema. Krishna is full of ecstatic love. And Bhakta Prem Adin. He is always Prem Adin. He is subordinate to the love of his devotees, of his bhaktas. Shuddha Preme Rasa Gune Gopika Praveen. Now the gopis, they are very much experienced. Praveen means they're extremely learned and extremely experienced. In what? In Shuddha Prem and Rasa Gun. Shuddha Prem means pure, uncontaminated love. And Rasa Gune in the qualities of rasa, all the different qualities, Rasa Gune. Gopika Praveen. The gopis are like this. So, there is no flaw or any adulteration in the love of the gopis. This is this unique thing about the gopis. Everyone else is flawed. Something missing, but not the gopis. There is no flaw. That's why Krishna told to the gopis, I can never repay you. Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharika Giridhari Radha Govinda Jiva Ki Jai. Gopikar Preme Nahi Ras Abbas Dosh. This is verse 157. Ras Abbas, all devotees have heard this term. Ras Abbas. That's Ras Abbas, Prabhu. The devotees use it even in terms of like prasadam or something, mixing this and that. That's Ras Abbas. But there's a whole science. It means adulterated taste of rasa. Okay? So, in the gopis' prem, there is no such thing. It is impossible for ras abbas, dosh, for the fault of adulterated mixing of rasas in the gopis. And therefore, atayeva Krishna kare parama santosh. Therefore, because of this, they give Krishna the highest pleasure. So now, Srila Prabhupada writes a little purport here, which helps us a bit. Ras Abbas occurs when one's relationship with Krishna is adulterated. There are different types of Ras Abbas. Guess what they are? There's three. First class, second class, and third class. The word rasa means mellow. And Abbas, it means a shadow. So, if one tastes one kind of mellow and something extra is imposed, that is called uparas. So there's different types of rasabas. One type is called uparas, when you're tasting one kind of mellow and something else is imposed. Then if something is derived from the original mellow, then it is called anuras. And if something is appreciated that is far removed from the original mellow, it is called aparas. Aparas, anuras, uparas, anuras, and aparas are respectively first, second, and third class ras abhasas. And then here's the definition verse of that from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, but it doesn't have a translation for it. So, there's no flaw and no adulteration in the love of the gopis, and therefore they give Krishna the highest pleasure.
Raj, is it possible to give an example of each of those three types of rasabas?
I can't.
Okay.
We can find references. But he's probably going to be explaining it a bit more here now. Now, he goes on and he says, this is actually a quotation now that Swarup Damodar is quoting from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 33rd chapter of the 10th canto. This is the last chapter, and verse 35. And it's an answer, we'll read the purport after this, but it's an answer to the questions of King Parikshit at the end of the Ras Leela. So, Sukadev Goswami is explaining, Evam shashankangsu virajita nisha, sasatya kamo anurata bala gana, shisheva atmani avarudha shodata, sarva sharat kavya kata rasashraya. So Lord Sri Krishna, who is the absolute truth, he enjoyed his rasa dance every night during this autumn season, every night. He performed this dance in the moonlight and with full transcendental mellows. He used poetic words and he surrounded himself with women who were very much attracted to him. This is like a summary of the 10th canto verse. So here it's telling that this verse is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-25. The gopis, they are all transcendental spirit souls. Gopis. Gopis are all transcendental spirit souls. One should never think that the gopis and Krishna have material bodies. Vrindavan Dham is also a spiritual abode. And there, the days and nights, the trees, the flowers and water, and everything else are spiritual. There is not even a trace of material contamination. Krishna, who is the Supreme Brahman and the Supersoul, he is not at all interested in anything material. Someone has a recording, kirtan recording, going on out there. Can you check? No, Braj, he'll check. So, Krishna, who is the Supreme Brahman and the Supersoul, is not at all interested in anything material. His activities with the gopis are all spiritual, and they take place within the spiritual world. They have nothing to do with the material world. Lord Krishna's lusty desires and all his dealings with the gopis are on the spiritual platform. One has to be transcendentally realized before even considering relishing the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis. What did Prabhupada just say? That one has to be transcendentally realized before even considering relishing the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis. One who is on the mundane platform must first purify himself by following the regulative principles. Only then can he try to understand Krishna and the gopis. Now, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Swarup Damodar Goswami are here talking about the relationship between Krishna and the gopis. And therefore, the subject matter is neither mundane nor erotic. Being a sannyasi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict in his dealings with women. So unless the gopis were on the spiritual platform, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have never even mentioned them to Swarup Damodar Goswami. So therefore, these descriptions do not at all pertain to material activity. So, is this a valid standard to set. From this, someone may conclude, well, I'm not on that platform, so I shouldn't even try to hear about these things, right? You understand my point? Because the warning is being given here, right? So, but there's more fine points to understand about this. And that's why Srila Gurudev's introduction to the Venugita is the classic presentation. Every disciple of Srila Gurudev should read this multiple times, his introduction to the Venugita. Because there he is presenting the opinion of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami, and so forth, as to whether one can or cannot be eligible for hearing this. Now, hearing about it is different than being a realized person and relishing and tasting it. Okay? Big, huge gulf of difference, ocean of difference. But some persons conclude that one should not hear at all. Is that valid? It may be. It may be, because guess what? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he also forbade certain sections of his disciples. He had different sections of disciples. It was not just one across the board. He also even had different sections of instructing disciples who took the position of giving siksha to the other disciples. He had 3 different levels. Upadeshak, yes, the term was Upadeshak. Like Upadesh means instruction. And Upadeshak means one who's giving instruction. So, amongst his disciples, he had divided them according to their realization, according to their understanding of Shastra, according to their seniority, etc. And some had the designation Upadeshak, that they could give instructions to other levels of disciples. Then, the next level above that was called a Maha Upadeshak. Okay? Maha Upadeshak. And that level now could give instruction to all the Upadeshaks and everyone. Then the third and final highest level was called Maha Mahopadeshak. Double Maha. And they were on the top level. See, persons like Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, persons like Sundarananda Vidya Vinod, or even Ananta Vasudev before his calamities. They were on that level. And even we see that there was a conversation between our Param Gurudev when he was Vinod Bihari Brahmachari and he was managing everything, and with, I think it was Ananta Vasudev. But one time he was reading, Srila Param Gurudev was reading the Vedanta Sutra, and with the commentary of Baladev Vijayabhushan, in Bengali, of course. And then he was challenged by this person. Do you know what you're reading? Because they all felt that this devotee, he's not so much of a scholarly type like us, you know. He hasn't gone very deeply into the Shastras. He's always doing managing and this and that. And when he somewhat challenged him, then Param Gurudev, he says, yes, I understand quite well what I'm reading. And can you tell? And then he completely blew his mind. And never again after that did he say anything. So the thing is that Srila Gurudev has set a standard. This is one of his great contributions, where other gurus or acharyas may have given a much more stringent restriction. But Srila Gurudev even countered that. I remember, he didn't mention names, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there was one particular personality who was an acharya in Gaudiya Math, and he was saying no one should even touch the 10th canto. Gurudev became furious right here in Badger. I remember. Anyone who says like this, they don't understand anything. And we know that our Srila Prabhupada also ventured to present all the pastimes of Krishna in the 10th canto, including Ras Leela, including songs of gopis, everything. But what was the nature of that presentation? What was the speciality of Srila Prabhupada's presentation of this very high subject matter, the highest and most important part of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Why was it successful? Why did Srila Prabhupada launch this into being distributed to the general masses of people? Certainly they are not qualified.
Well, he did take special pains to explain the difference between that and mundane sexuality.
He did again and again. But one of the main things that the special pains, as you say, that he took was to continuously remind the reader who Krishna is. This is the speciality of Prabhupada's presentation. He's continuously calling him the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's why the title is Krishna. We call it the Krishna book, but the title is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, Srila Prabhupada himself is, because his purports that he's writing, they're from his own realization, but he's also echoing what he's reading in the purports of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as he's writing. And sometimes he's directly quoting to them. So, this is the beauty of the presentation of Srila Prabhupada, how he's always reminding that one should never think that the gopis and Krishna have material bodies. Should not think this. And this is the point that's being made in this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, that because Krishna is being called the Absolute Truth. Lord Sri Krishna, who is the Absolute Truth, enjoyed his rasa dance every night during the autumn season. He performed this dance in the moonlight and with full transcendental rasa. He used poetic words, Krishna did, and he surrounded himself with women who were very much attracted to him. So, the gopis are transcendental spirit souls, Prabhupada's saying here. And not only that, but Vrindavan Dham is also a spiritual abode. There, the days, the nights, the trees, the flowers, everything else, everything is spiritual in Vrindavan. It's not an ordinary material forest. There are not even a trace of material contamination there. Krishna, who is the supreme Brahman and the super soul, he is not at all interested in anything material. Is Krishna interested in a material body of a material woman of this world? Or a demigoddess of the higher planetary systems who put to shame any physical woman attractiveness here? Gurudev said that in comparison with the heavenly damsels, the women of this world, even Miss Universe, looks like a frog. But is Krishna, can he become attracted? Here's the point. Can Krishna become attracted to a material body, no matter how beautiful, which is made of the material elements of this world? Can he? Why not?
Because Krishna is completely transcendental and the taster of all rasa, and so that is where Krishna is also attracted to.
But maybe Krishna can derive rasa from this?
Yes.
Huh? I'm just posing this argument so we get it clarified. No, it's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible for us, with our material senses, mind, intelligence, and so forth, to approach Krishna. It's impossible. Atak Shri Krishna namadi nabhavid grahyam indriyai. With the dull material senses. Matter cannot approach spirit. It's impossible. And neither is spirit attracted to matter. Because spirit is millions of times greater than any material object. So, Krishna cannot be attracted to a mundane material. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna, he's not going to be hearing about some mundane, lusty affair between men and women of this world. No. Because he's only tasting transcendental rasa. But even if he quotes a mundane poetry, what does he experience through that? Like we already showed. But what does he experience in that mundane poetry? He's completely absorbed in the moods of Srimati Radhika meeting Krishna at Kurukshetra. You see? So his activities with the gopis are all spiritual, and they take place within the spiritual world. They have nothing to do with the material world. Lord Krishna's lusty desires and all of his dealings with the gopis, they're on the spiritual platform. And one has to be transcendentally realized before even considering relishing the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis. But does this statement mean that we should not hear it? Of course not. Because if that was the case, why did Srila Prabhupada give the Krishna book and wanted to distribute it to the masses of people? Because Krishna's activities are powerful transcendental activities. That verse, Vikriditam vrajavadubiridam Vishnu, Shradhanvitam anushinuyad atavarnayedya. This verse is quoted by Gurudev in his introduction to the Venu Gita to clarify the point that is it okay to hear? Yes, it's okay. Not only is it okay, at the end of the Ras Leela, Sukadeva Goswami said, one must hear this. But how should he hear it? He should hear it from the authorized source. And also, Varnayedya means that he also describes it. So after hearing and also describing it. Why? Because Shraddhanvita. A person who has Shraddha. Shraddhanvita means he possesses great faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's completely transcendental. He has nothing to do with the material world, material desires. Nothing to do with that. So, that qualification enables one to hear from the proper source. So Srila Prabhupada gave the Krishna book. He is the proper personality to hear from. He's quoting from the previous acharyas. So that's all properly in line. And he's instilling faith in the reader continually from the first page, that Krishna is actually the absolute truth. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's God. He's not just an ordinary human being. But even though that's stated throughout the Vedas, there are some fools and rascals. Prabhupada, I was just hearing and reading one of his purport, where he's pointing this out, that fools and rascals, despite this fact, they still deride Krishna and try to say that he's just a historical king personality, etc., like that. So that means they don't have Shraddha. They're not qualified. And the mundane Srimad Bhagavatam professional reciters who go directly to Ras Leela, that's also the improper source to hear from. It's like milk touched by the lips of a serpent causes poisonous effects. The audience will not be purified from that. Actually, they'll become more lusty. So that's the whole picture. Good topic as we're studying this topic of the moods of the gopis. Jai Grantara Shri Chaitanya Charitamritam Ki Jai. Hera Panchami Festival Ki Jai. Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Sharup Damodar Goswami Pada Ki Jai. Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Mancha Kalpadirubhascha Kripa Sindhu Vedacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. What's wrong with it?
No, nothing.
It's going?
Yep.
Oh, then you have to press